Morning, everyone. Silver Soldier coming at you today from this crisp, cool, sort of cloudy morning here in Robeson County, North Carolina. Actually, getting up and getting this one done early this morning because I'm on my way to the little old town of Red Springs. My monthly doctor's visit. Had a good conversation yesterday, folks, about what's going on in the DOD and the new Secretary of Defense issuing the 60-day stand down. To discuss extremism in the ranks. So, and to my friend's point, Wayne, the ungrateful peasant, he is 100% spot on that the people that are elected to serve us up there, 99.8% don't give a rat's rear end about us. There is a handful there that I still believe that do. It ain't very many. And obviously my elected representative, Congressman Dan Worthless Buttercup Bishop, is one of them. And I say that to say this. I called his office yesterday. Of course, I get his little rep. And, when you call up there, you're never ever going to get the actual congressman that represents you or senator. You're always going to get one of their aides. And apparently his aide still doesn't believe that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are communists, and this whole stand down, it's just to talk about extremism in the ranks, sir. I said, no, that's freaking communist code for purge of conservatives and Christians, you dumbass. Didn't call him that, but that's what I thought. And I straight up told him, I'm demanding Congressman Bishop take a stand on this. And I expect to hear something back next week on what he plans to do on the floor of the House in regards to this. And I said, I demand, because he works for me. I don't work for him. I'm a constituent and a voter. And he works for me. So we'll see how it goes. I said, and I'll call you again next week. And again, I know at the end of the day the calling won't do any good, but at the same token, if I can annoy just one person up there, I've done something. But again, my friend Wayne, the ungrateful peasant, is spot on. Congress don't give a rat's rear end. They're up there for themselves. If y'all haven't gone over and checked this channel out, y'all need to go do that. It's the Ungrateful Peasant. And I've said this before about this young man, and I'll say it again. What I truly, truly appreciate about him is his candor. He doesn't always agree with everything that I say, and he's not afraid to tell me what he thinks. But never ever has he told me, you're wrong with your opinion. He just tells me what he thinks and gives me his viewpoints. And sometimes you need that sounding board to maybe see that maybe you're not seeing something that somebody else is. And to him, for that, I'm gratefully appreciative, among other things. And he's a smart young man. Y'all need to go check him out and listen to what he's got to say. And Uncle Al over at Die Bullfrog 79, you check him out, wise man. And my buddy Steve at Corsair Trainers, and also check out Pro Carry Trucker, among some of the others, like I said. But anyway, folks, that's what's going on there with that conversation I had yesterday with, this worthless public servant up there. Who's afraid to make a commitment one way or the other on behalf of his boss. I get it, they're not supposed to actually speak for the elected representative unless a prepared statement is given. But at the end of the day, if you're up there working for a so-called conservative official, and I guess I got adamant last week when they tried to tell me Joe Biden wasn't a communist. I really just laughed in the kid's face over that one. I told him yesterday too, they need to get a copy of The Naked Communist and start reading the darn thing. In lighter news, one of my Facebook profiles, I am suspended for 3 days. Yeah, apparently calling people names and telling them where they can stick it and suggesting they go skydiving without a parachute. Facebook community standards don't like it. Oh well. If I comment on a post, not a thread, but a post, if you comment back, I'm going to give it to you what I think both barrels. Apparently, some snowflake had a meltdown. I don't know. I don't care. I'm only on Facebook now really to see how far I can stretch my First Amendment rights before they shut me down. Just to give proof to the pudding on what I said yesterday, that the communists are using big tech and social media and the suppression of free speech. They're also using regular media too, if you didn't know. You can't go on to a news channel anywhere in the United States that's affiliated with the big three and get an honest day's report. None. Ain't gonna happen. They all get canned information that is there to spread their communist message around the world. Plain, simple, cut and dry. The majority of the written news media is all communist. Some of y'all still out there probably still call it liberal, but let's just call it by its true name, communist. Because they're telling you what to think, how to think, when to think, what to believe, what to accept, what to deny. Things that we held dear growing up, for those of my age generation, are now just bygone or forgotten or even outright considered wrong. Okay. And this may seem simple, folks, but I'm going to give you some things that nowadays are considered taboo in raising kids. One, being involved with your children at school. Because the teachers there are indoctrinated with communism. Some of the sad part is some of these teachers are spewing this stuff out and don't know any better. That's the sad part. If they were really studied and went and did some independent research on things, they'd realize some of this stuff they're teaching is wrong. And just like here in North Carolina, the Board of Education, on a big tangent, but here in North Carolina, see, the Lieutenant Governor is supposed to be adamantly involved in anything the school board does, the state school board. They decided to schedule a meeting when he couldn't be there. And then they went ahead and passed a new left-wing communist agenda for the curriculum for the students in the state of North Carolina that attend public school. Then, then the state cries when some of these public schools lose enrollments, when moms and dads that can afford it pull their kids out of public school and are sending them to parochial schools or Christian schools. Now, there's some of you out there I know that don't agree with my Christian values, and that's fine. But at the end of the day, you even got people that, I'm not going to say are atheists, they're more agnostic, that are pulling their kids out and sending them to these Christian schools. Because while they don't hold Judeo-Christian values, they hold high moral values, and the public schools are not teaching it. You see, when I was a child, if you did wrong in school and you got punished, when you got home, you were going to get whipped again. For the most part, I knew better. My mama told me the day I started kindergarten, you might not learn a darn thing when you go up there, son, but you better behave while you're there. Because if you come home with bad conduct grade, you're going to get a whooping. The only issue I ever had was in 4th grade when we moved from one county to another in Georgia. We went from Fulton County to Clayton County. There you go. Out in Riverdale, Georgia. And I had a teacher that had no business teaching kids. The man had taught every grade to include college and had already retired from one school system and was going to work at another. He didn't believe children needed to play. We'd come home, have homework in 8 or 9 books. And I got stubborn, he got stubborn, and we had issues. It's the only time my mom and dad ever agreed with me when it came to issues with a teacher. We moved to Chattanooga and I started school. Got to junior high. Mom and dad went to parent-teacher night. My 7th grade year. That's probably the worst butt whooping I ever got from my daddy about grades. Not that he really, it wasn't so much about my grades, but it was because he knew I could do better. And what one of my teachers told him basically elaborated that, he can do better, he's just not focusing because he's this, that, or the other. And, got wore out over that one. But I never got a spanking for my conduct. My conduct was always spot on. Because I feared my mama and my daddy enough to know that if I came home with bad conduct grade, I was going to get it. Now, I get it. In this day and age, the family dynamic has changed. But that's all part of the communist plan, is to divide and destroy the nuclear family. And with it, it allows for the education system to come in and play mom and dad, which further indoctrinates the children into this communist delve the nation's going into. So if you haven't got it, you need to get it and read The Naked Communist. Because again, part of the Marxist, Lenin, Stalinist theory was that really at a certain age, the children need to be pulled out of the home and sent off to group camps and raised on a commune. For the greater good of Mother Russia, for the greater good of the state. Now, it never quite got that far in the Soviet Union, but it come awful close. And I would say this, that at the rate things are going here, it could potentially be a possibility here. You're saying, oh, so what in the world are you talking about? Go back to Obozo's era, where he came out and adamantly stated that it takes a village to raise a child. That was what he was referring to. These are the things we need to be consciously aware of, people. These are the things that you need to keep an eye on. Well, what do you mean? Take a long, hard look at this for a second. 50 years ago, how many households had both parents working compared to now? Now the dynamic is basically, for a family to survive per se, both parents need to work in order to sustain their family. Now, my opinion too is some of it is called keeping up with the Joneses. But in some aspects too as well, for these so-called finer things in life, it is sort of more or less requiring a two-income household. Now, what happens when that household splits? Then you have even bigger issues. But at the end of the day, and I see this with military families a lot too, because of dual military, basically the child is raised in daycare and babysitters. So the amount of time they actually spend at home with mom and dad are slim. I mean, that's slim, poor choice, but it's nil. It's hardly any time at home with mom and dad. And that was, when I was in the Army, well, I didn't care if, when I was single in the Army, didn't really care to date military women, because getting a relationship with one and they have a career and you got a career, and the next thing you have children, it becomes an issue of which one of y'all's jobs have priority, because both of them do. And then the whole family care plan, the list goes on and on. I'm not saying there ain't people that are successful at it, but it does create a lot of undue stress on the family. Likewise, though, in civilian society, if mom and dad are working both the same hours or the same shift, and let's just say both of them are working second shift, that means children are at home either with a babysitter or they're at daycare, and mom and dad get off. It's just not healthy for the children. And if I'm wrong, someone tell me I'm wrong. If someone's lived this life and has done so successfully, hey, awesome. It's just been my experience, the amount of stress that it puts on a family, it doesn't seem worth it at the end of the day. Now, I get it if they're having to absolutely do it in order to survive, that can't be avoided. But sometimes when I see some of these, what was the 80s term, power couples, there you go. No, one of them could make a sacrifice to stay home with the children until they get to a certain age where they can come home and take care of themselves. And I think during the 80s and 90s, there was the old, what'd they call them? Latchkey kids. That was what it was. They got to a certain age and they were just given a key to get home. And basically they'd be in the home until mom or dad got home, depending on which parent they were living with, if there was a split family, or if both worked, whoever got home first, what have you. Because honestly, some of these TV shows that portray it, no, it's not as successful as Hollywood would have you believe. But anyway. Woo! Yeah, I've rambled on probably more than I should have this morning. And I've gotten off on a few tangents more than I wanted to. But I had to get it off my chest, get it out there to you folks. You can make your own opinions, form your own opinions, make your own decisions on what you're going to do. Like I said yesterday in my video too, how far are you prepared to go to defend your freedom? I had a conversation with a friend yesterday, a Scotsman, and before I got off the phone with him, I just let him know right quick that in the event the powers be decide they're going to come try and take my guns, my liberties, my freedom, I'm not going down without a fight. And I'm afraid that's where our nation's headed. The real question is, what's gonna, see, because the fuse and the powder keg's already there, folks. But what's gonna be the real thing to set the fuse on fire? And the next thing is, people stand up and gather, or will they submit and capitulate? And that's where you got to ask yourself, what are you prepared to do? Till tomorrow, my friends, God bless, take care, stay safe, stay vigilant, stay armed. Soldier out.